Alright guys, welcome to another episode of Masterclass. Today we are going to be looking at the artist Dave Guertin. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. This guy, he's worked on Ratchet and Clank as a concept artist. He also does his own comic books. He's done work for tons of other different companies as a character designer and as an illustrator. This guy is a true master, and there is a lot to learn from him. Today I'm going to be specifically looking at his character designs and seeing what kind of information it is that I can get from them. I'm going to be showing some of the design principles it is that is using as usual, and then I'm going to be doing a little bit of designs inspired off of what it is that I see from his work, just to kind of give an example of how it is that I feed my imagination with this information, right? Whenever we do master studies and when we're studying from other artists, we're coming to it in order to try to understand. And so in other words, it's about putting in the correct input so that we can have the correct output, which will be in our own work. We don't want to copy things mindlessly thinking that if we just do 100 different character designs from other artists that all of a sudden that's going to rub off on us. It will to some extent. But the way to improve as an artist is to understand from a design perspective what it is that these artists are doing instead of just from mindlessly copying. And we do that by looking for the design principles in their work. So to jump right into this, the first thing it is that I noticed about these designs, about these character designs, was that they are very symmetrical, which makes sense because these are robots, right? So I'm assuming these are like Sentry robots that were like NPCs throughout the game. Oops, I kind of turned it the wrong way. Let's see if I can redo that. Okay, I can't. Okay. Let's see, can I reset that? Anyway, I accidentally tilted my canvas, but we're just going to have to roll with it. Anyway, okay, so when I look at these illustrations, the first thing it is that I see is a couple of different things. For one, the design language it is that they're using is primarily based off of circles. So we see circles all throughout the image, and we see them all at varying sizes. And so this was a very distinct decision from a creative standpoint of how they were going to organize all of these different characters together and make them feel cohesive. So we see circles everywhere. We see the circles on the top of the heads. We see the circles in the eyes. We see the circles in the shape of the bodies, right? In this big guy here. Or even in the shape of the fingers, which feel very circular. Shape of the body here. Shape of the body here. This also has kind of a round kind of feel to it. And then we see that there are contrasting elements within those shapes that help bring out the circle, right? So we have other contrasting shapes, such as a square, right? You have a square head here. And this square head, this square shape, contrasts against these circle shapes, right? Same thing here, square, square, circle, circle, right? Square head. Right? This is something that I've talked about before. It's kind of like a yin and a yang. The black brings out the white brings out the black. In that same way, we have that exact same thing that we see in these design principles. The circle is really brought out of the illustration when we have something to compare it to, when there's a contrasting element that's right next to it, right? It's like contrasting colors. So where do we see that? You know, we see this triangle shape here on the visor of this robot, right? You can see it better when I hide my draw over. But you see the big circle of the body, and then you see the triangle-like shape of the visor there. And so one of the things it is that I like to do is I like to go over here and I like to do these little breakdowns, these silhouette breakdowns, so that I get a chance to actually feel what it is that it feels like to have a design like this, right? So bear with me 1 second because I do want to reset. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let me hide this. So this is typically what it is that I do, and I did a few of these as a warm-up. And I like to do things like this as a warm-up before I get to designing my own stuff so that I'm putting something into my imagination. I'm putting something into my mind. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hide this and I'm going to do a demonstration of how I do these. And then I'm going to do a demonstration of designing with this same mindset, with this same idea that I'm seeing here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the symmetry tool. I'm using Clip Studio, and I'm just going to go ahead and draw a straight line on this layer. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab my paintbrush and I'm going to pick one that I didn't draw before. And what you'll notice and what makes it really cool is that the symmetry tool allows you, and my computer's chugging like a mofo, so please be patient. It always does this when I do screen recordings. My MacBook sucks. I apologize. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw out. You see that it's creating this symmetrical image. I only have to worry about one side of this image because the computer is drawing the other side, right? Now I'd be doing these on a little bit bolder shapes if my computer wasn't chugging along, but I'm just trying to keep it from not completely locking up on me. All right. So now that I have this line out, I can go back in here and I can just darken this whole thing in. And I start to notice a couple of things about the silhouette that I hadn't noticed when I first looked at it. Right? There's a couple of different things it is that I notice. For one thing is the use of negative space. If I go over here and I look at this image that I just copied, we see that he has a very well designed use of negative space that I didn't really get the chance to see when I was zoomed out, which is this nice little negative space that we have here. Right? And then we see how these arms attach. So these are all things it is that I should think about whenever I'm going into my own design. Right? So paying a little bit more attention to something like that, I might go back and make some changes here. Assuming my computer will allow me to. So I can go back over here, grab my black, and I can actually I'll take my eraser, and I'll zoom in here. I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to carve out, from what I remember from just looking at it, where that negative space was. And also here as well. And I'm creating this kind of dark shape. And it starts to kind of have this kind of alien kind of vibe to it, right? I really dig his work. I feel like I want to go more in that direction with the stuff that I do, much more cartoonish, rather than trying to do something that's like super realistic. If you guys have been following my channel, you know I'm a comic artist. I've got some comics in the description you can check out if you're interested. But I'm always looking at other artists and trying to figure out like what kind of decisions they're making, how to improve. Always studying and trying to understand design. If you feed yourself with a little bit of something like this every day, you're going to improve super quick. Right. So it's something like this. But we can start to see that there's a little bit more design here. So let's go ahead and let's do another one. And then I'm going to do a small demonstration of doing these from imagination, which I really enjoy doing. This time I'm going to really go for this one down here. Be mindful of these little negative spaces. The trick with learning from other artists is not to fall into something that's very routine, which is why it is that I love doing these videos, because it really forces me to think about what I'm doing as opposed to just mindlessly doing something. I think we have this tendency to just be like, okay, well let me just grind this out like this is an RPG, and let me just do 1,000 character design silhouettes, and then I'll be great. That might be the case. You might learn quite a lot from something like that. But the issue is that you will start to you can't just button mash your way through life. You really have to pay attention to what you're doing. All right? You can't just expect to put in a low effort and to get any kind of result. And what I've learned is that teaching is learning. So this is a great way to learn, is by doing these little videos. So I just did another one of these here. It's not completely perfect, but you get the idea. Right? And so now that I've done a few of these, now I'm going to hide this away. And I'm going to start another one, and I'm going to do just a couple from my own imagination. And again, like I said, this is me now taking this what I've seen from this artist and trying to apply it. Like if I was to do my own robot design, how would I do it? What would I do? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on keeping it small, right? Keeping the image itself just a silhouette for now. If you guys haven't seen it, I did an art of Dave Guertin. I did like a whole breakdown of his work. You can find here on this channel. Put it in the cards above, so you guys can check that out. He's done a ton of stuff, and so he's definitely worth checking out. All right, so that's one down. And you can see I'm playing around with these different concepts. But I am going to go ahead and shrink this guy down. And you can tell that now that he's shrunk down, that he's still readable. So maybe I'll do something like... And when I'm designing these right now, I'm thinking about this totally in terms of an abstract shape. How can I create an interesting abstract shape from what it is that I'm seeing so far? And one of the things that you'll notice is that stuff that has a visual appeal to it, the shapes tend to have a direction that they're pointing to, right? So that means that the torso is not all one direction. You can see that there's a tip to this top part that connects here. There's a general direction that things are going. And that doesn't look as visually appealing because the silhouette is not as creative, right? So how can we do that? Perhaps we can take some lessons of what it is that we learned earlier and break down the silhouette shape, add some visual interest by going in and actually taking some things out. And then we also want to create this contrast with the two fingers. Maybe even create some contrast here in the arms. Okay, that feels more designed. That starts to feel like it's got more of a design to it. Right? Got like a square shape, and then we have these triangle shapes that are kind of, or you could really say this is a very triangular design. So one of the things we might do is we might go in here and start adding in different elements that are contrasting against that. Right? Maybe a shape like that. Something like that. So that's just a brief breakdown of ways it is that you can exercise your character design ability. And really what you want to do is you want to do a ton of these. You want to do a lot of different designs, a lot of different character designs. You know, fill entire pages, 10, 20 character silhouettes at a time, and really experiment and play around with this stuff. Don't just copy other people's work, but go there to get the information it is that you need, and even have some stuff pulled up over to the side that you can look at, and then take some inspiration from that, but don't be too tied to it. And that way it is you're always growing in your understanding of design. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of this. If there's a question you have, please drop it in the comments below. If there's an artist it is that you would like for me to look at, feel free to let me know that as well. Also check out my Art of videos that you can find in the description above. I put those in the cards as well, and you can see like a whole bunch of different stuff it is that I've covered from different artists. Like I said, that's what really this channel is. I am a character designer, illustrator, comic artist, and I'm always looking to learn from other artists, whether that's through storytelling, such as the analysis I've done of like Blade Runner and different stories like that, but also just from different artists in terms of design. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and have a great day.